Hello, and welcome back to our weekly reading. We're continuing on with our book, Obi, Gerbil on the Loose. Remember, Obi is the name of this gerbil here, right? A gerbil kind of like a little mouse, right? Sort of. Many people have them as pets, right? And if you remember from chapter 1 we read last week, Obi told us that Obi is a girl, lives with the Armstrong family. That is Mr. Armstrong and Mrs. Armstrong and Rachel, who is Obi's owner, right? Obi is a pet, and Rachel's brother, Craig. And Obi was telling us that there was something wrong in the house. Mr. Armstrong was home, and he's not normally home during the week. Also, everybody seemed to be in a bad mood. All right, so last chapter, Obi just told us about that and described where she lives in Rachel's bedroom. And Obi also told us about her name, right? She has a boy's name, and she's named after Obi-Wan Kenobi, the great Jedi Master from the Star Wars movies. All right, today we're continuing on. I will have sent the pages to you with chapter 2, Sweetie Smoochkins. All right, Sweetie Smoochkins. Let's continue on today. It was the tabby cat, Sweetie Smoochkins, who broke the news to Obi that something was up with the Armstrongs. There were 6 members of the Armstrong family: Mr. and Mrs. Armstrong, Rachel's older brother Craig, Rachel, and Betsy and Susie, the identical twins. Each Armstrong had his or her own pet or pets. Mr. Armstrong had an old yellow Labrador named Mac, and a garrulous parrot named Mr. Smithers. Mrs. Armstrong had 3 rather evil cats. Each cat had a sugary sweet name: Sweetie Smoochkins, Sugar Smacks, and Honey Buns. Why Mrs. Armstrong had given her cats such sugary sweet names completely baffled Obi, because not one was the least bit kind or sugary sweet to Obi. Obi was completely baffled as to why Mrs. Armstrong felt she needed 3 cats when 1, or better none, would have been more than enough. Craig too had pets. At least that was what Obi had heard. She didn't know for sure, though. That was because Craig's pets lived inside Craig's bedroom, and Craig's bedroom door was always closed. Rachel never ventured into his bedroom, which meant, of course, Obi never did either. And who could blame Rachel? The outside of Craig's bedroom door was plastered with signs that silently screamed the most hostile warnings: danger, high voltage, stop, keep out, beware, no trespassing. There was even a small black flag with a pirate's skull and crossbones pinned near the doorknob. One look at Craig's bedroom door would scare off even the boldest intruder and little sister. The identical twins, Betsy and Susie, each had a goldfish for a pet. The 2 goldfish, whose names, rather confusingly, were also Betsy and Susie, were just as hard to tell apart as the human Betsy and Susie. The goldfish lived downstairs in the TV room, as did Mac and Mr. Smithers. The fish lived in an aquarium that had a nifty underwater castle. Not surprisingly, considering she was a cat and Obi was a gerbil, Sweetie Smoochkins did not come right out and tell Obi what she knew. Although that would have been the friendly thing to do, she didn't. What she did do was this. While the Armstrongs were all downstairs in the kitchen eating breakfast, Sweetie Smoochkins, looking for her usual bored self, wandered into Rachel's bedroom. "Hi-yo, Sweetie Smoochkins," said Obi, with a big, cheerful smile, as if she was delighted to see the cat. She wasn't. The truth was, Obi dreaded whenever one of the cats paid her a visit. Like many small creatures, Obi had an enormous fear of cats. Consequently, she went out of her way to be as nice as possible whenever one stopped by. "So how are you today?" she asked. Smoochkins mumbled something under her breath. Whatever it was, it sounded terribly rude. The cat walked to the foot of the dresser, and without even pausing, let alone asking if Obie was busy or if it was okay to drop by for a visit, she leaped up on top of the dresser. Sweetie Smoochkins gazed hard at Obie inside her apartment. Her tail began to twirl and swish that awful hypnotic sort of way. "So what's new?" Obie asked in a polite but nervous voice. "Haven't you heard?" said Sweetie Smoochkins. She wiggled her front left paw between two bars of Obie's living room and tried to swat poor Obie. "Heard what?" asked Obie. Keeping her distance from the cat's groping paw, Obie acted as if this was a perfectly normal way for a guest to behave. "The news!" "What news?" asked Obie. "The big news, fuzzball," replied Sweetie Smoochkins. "What big news?" Sweetie Smoochkins gave Obie a shocked look, as if she could not believe Obie hadn't heard. "You mean Rachel hasn't told you?" "Told me what?" "The big news." "No, I haven't heard anything. What's the big news?" "Well, it's like this," said the cat. She leaned close to the bars and lowered her voice like she was about to reveal a huge secret. But then she shook her head and said, "You know, maybe I better not say anything." "Why not?" "Well, Rachel hasn't said anything to you. Maybe she doesn't want you to know." "Sure she does," cried Obie. "I'm her pet." "True, true," said Sweetie Smoochkins, nodding. "She just hasn't had a chance to tell me, that's all," explained Obie. The little gerbil had no idea if this was indeed true, but she hoped it was. "Well, okay," said Sweetie Smoochkins. "Suppose I do tell you. What's in it for me?" Obie didn't really know. She thought about it for a moment and then said, "Well, I guess you'll have the pleasure of being the first to tell me." "Some pleasure," grumbled Sweetie Smoochkins, rolling her eyes. "Oh, come on, Sweetie Smoochkins. Please tell me. Please, 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 please." Just at that moment, from across the room, a girl's voice cried out, "Hey, get down from there!" It was Rachel. She had just walked into her bedroom. She looked furious at finding the cat up on her dresser bothering Obie. There was another reason why Obie loved her adopted mother as much as she did. Startled, Sweetie Smoochkins let out a frightened meow. Whirling about, she hopped down onto the floor. As she raced past Rachel, the girl stomped her foot and said, "You know you're not supposed to be up there, you bad cat." Rachel came over to the dresser. Obie scampered up to her bedroom to greet her. Rachel tapped her index finger on the top of Obie's domed bedroom roof. "You okay in there, Ob?" Obie loved it when her adopted mother called her by her nickname. Just loved it. Ob. Ob. It sounded so, well, loving. Obie peered up and tried to let Rachel know through her facial expression that yes, she was okay. She continued to gaze into Rachel's blue eyes, hoping that Rachel would tell her the big news that Sweetie Smoochkins had hinted at. But alas, Rachel said nothing more. Crossing the bedroom, she went over to her bookcase and from one of the shelves began to take down her music CDs. What do you think is going to happen with the Armstrong family? I think I have an idea, but perhaps you do too. Next week we'll read chapter 3, A Stuck Zipper. Right? You can see a zipper like on your shirt, maybe, or on your jacket, probably. Right? All right, thank you for joining us with the reading this week. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.